Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to, as you'll be able to see from the title, my first trimester recap. So I've been meaning to film this video for a long time. I'm currently 28 weeks pregnant, so I'm actually in my third trimester now, but I really wanted to film this and just have a chat about my personal experience and how I found things. Just because I loved watching these kind of videos and pregnancy content. Even when I wasn't pregnant, I enjoy watching pregnancy content. So I really wanted to still make this one. And just have a chat about my personal experience. I'm not obviously a doctor or a midwife, so everything that I talk about in this video is just my experience and what I have personally found. So, you know, obviously don't take anything as gospel. I just wanted to share that this is what I have personally experienced during my first trimester, and just doing a bit of a recap of the symptoms and the feelings, maybe like some of the emotions, and also have a little co-host today. I've got Honey with me today. Hi. Hi. She's just the cutest. She's sitting on my knee right now and she's kind of half asleep. I think she's ready for a nap. That's her favourite thing to do. You nap all day, don't you? Hey. So I used the just the notes app on my phone just to write down some notes and just some thoughts as I was going through the first trimester. And when I've watched videos, I've seen that people have been like really in depth and done like week by week and really intricate details of what was happening to them every single week. And I tried to do that, but I just couldn't keep up with it. So I've just got kind of like more generalized symptoms and feelings and thoughts that I kind of noted down as and when, like ad hoc, as I went along in the first trimester. So I'm going to be just kind of reading through those and chatting about each one. But yeah, I really hope that this video can maybe help you in any kind of way. If you were in a similar situation, or you know, if you're in your first trimester or coming into your first trimester, I just hope that maybe something from this video might be helpful for you, or maybe reassuring, because I certainly seeked out like a lot of reassurance in the first trimester. It's a really nervous time for a lot of people, but overall I personally had a really positive first 3 months of pregnancy, and I'm really grateful and really thankful for that. And yeah, I just thought I'd share some of the aspects that I found, some things that I did find positive, some things that weren't so positive, but yeah, overall I had a really good first trimester, so I wanted to share it and have a bit of a chat about it. So the very first note that I have is about vivid dreams, and this is something that has continued throughout my pregnancy, and I have very vivid dreams anyway. I've always had really vivid dreams. I always have like, they're like movies almost. But when I was in the really early weeks of pregnancy, kind of like, I must have been like maybe 3 or 4 weeks pregnant, the dreams just became like next level. Like literally, I think I should have written them down, because I could have made like blockbuster movies with some of the dreams that I was having. Like the storylines were like storylines, but the stories in the dreams were like so in depth, and they were realistic dreams that made sense, that followed like an actual story, which is kind of weird because I've not really had that before. Like normally they're quite abstract and just random, but these dreams were just like really vivid, really realistic. So yeah, that was one thing, and it kind of became a little bit annoying because I'd be waking up in the middle of the night and remembering and be like really involved in these dreams. And I read a theory somewhere that because you are growing another little person, you are dreaming for 2 people. So I don't know if that's scientifically correct, but I think it's a nice idea that you're dreaming for 2. But yeah, I had really vivid dreams, and I think that's something that a lot of people also have. So that was one of my kind of really early symptoms. And another one actually was that Indy, our Romanian rescue dog, if you haven't seen her, she's got her own Instagram, and I also share her quite a lot on my Instagram, so I'll leave those down below. But yeah, I noticed that Indy was starting to be a lot closer to me, and I've heard people say before that dogs know when a woman is pregnant, and I don't know if it's something to do with the change in scent or something like that, but I just feel like she instinctively knew that I was pregnant. And she's not really a clingy dog at all. So Honey here will just, she's quite happy to just sit with me all day. She's like such a snuggle bug. She just wants to be with you. Whereas Indy is a lot more independent, and she's quite happy doing her own thing. So for her to want to be near me a lot was quite different for her. So that's one thing that I noticed as well, that she would want to be close to me and near to me, and she'd just sit nearer to me, and yeah, she just wanted to be by my side a lot more. On a more emotional thought, the time that we found out was just so many like mixed emotions for me, because being pregnant and having a baby and having a family has always been something that I've wanted, and I've always been so happy for friends and family when they found out that they're expecting. But it was almost as if I didn't dare to dream it for myself, like, I don't know, just in case, like I just didn't want to get my hopes up in case, you know, it came to the point of trying and realised that I couldn't have children or something like that. And I think that's a fear and a worry that a lot of people have. But when we did decide to try to have a baby and I did fall pregnant, the emotional side of it was just as, it had as much of an impact on my life as the physical side. So emotionally I felt so thankful, lucky, grateful that we had fallen pregnant and we'd been blessed with this amazing gift of a baby. And I also felt a little bit overwhelmed just because it didn't feel real, and I was kind of waiting for it to feel real, because like I say, I'd kind of dreamed it and I'd been afraid to let myself get excited and really into everything baby related and pregnancy related, just in case something went wrong, which obviously can happen. So especially for the first few weeks, I was just in shock really that it had happened, and that it was kind of like letting myself absorb the fact and the information that we were going to have a baby and that it was real. So it took a while for that to kind of sink in and for my brain to accept it and really embrace the happiness. And yeah, there were a lot of tears of happiness, but tears and yeah, a kind of feeling of shock really that it had happened for us, even though there wasn't really a reason why. Like, there's nothing in the past that would necessarily make us be wary, but like I said, I think it's just one of those natural worries that a lot of people have if they want to have children. So yeah, we had a lot of feelings of excitement and happiness, gratitude, but during the first few weeks especially, I felt like quite isolated and quite alone because I hadn't told anyone. I did tell Grant the same day that I found out, I told Grant, but a lot of our other close family and friends we didn't tell until later on. So for those first few weeks especially, as your body is going through a lot of emotional changes, a lot of physical changes, I did feel a little bit isolated and alone because I couldn't share that with anybody. And I think it can be a situation that you feel where you can't talk to anybody about it just in case something goes wrong or things don't work out. And that was a really big worry for me, kind of all the way through the first trimester. And I spent a lot of time kind of thinking about that and worrying about that. And whenever I did kind of worry or think like that, I had to try to stop myself and to reprocess the way I was thinking about things and just encourage myself to think more positively and think, well, there's no reason that that is going to happen, so let's just enjoy it. And there was a lot of like reprocessing and retraining myself to try and think like that. We didn't want to tell anyone until the 12-week mark, what a lot of people consider to be the more kind of safe time to tell family and friends and share the news with everybody. And we were so excited, and we just like literally just were bursting to tell people, but we couldn't. Well, not that we couldn't, but we didn't want to. And we were kind of in this little bubble, just the two of us, which was really nice, but at the same time there was like a lot of physical and emotional changes as a woman that I was just dying to talk to like some of my girlfriends about, but we hadn't told them yet. So yeah, there was definitely a feeling of kind of like a bit of isolation during the first few weeks, and I think because of that I was seeking out reassurance and information from all different areas, like wherever I could really. I'm the kind of person that if I don't know something, or if something new is going on in my life, I try and find out all the information possible. I will do like the deep dives, do like the YouTube deep dives, going down a hole and spending hours researching, looking into something. So I definitely did that, and I looked into like so much information, kind of seeking out that reassurance and the information, like anything I could find out about how the baby was growing, how they were developing. And I downloaded a few different apps. The one that I use the most is the Flow app, which you might have heard about. It's like one of the really popular ones. So I used that app a lot, and I had like the daily updates and the weekly updates, which was really encouraging. And it was just really nice to see an idea of how the baby was developing and growing, and I just found that really nice and I found it really comforting. But on that note, there was also forums online, lots of spaces for people to talk about their experiences, and I personally, after reading a few of them, had to kind of stop myself from looking at them, because I actually found that they were more harmful to me personally than helpful. I found that there were a lot of stories on there that weren't applicable to me, but I kind of would read them and they would scare me or upset me. So I kind of had to make the decision to stop from delving into those. And obviously if that is something that you would find helpful, then there are so many places on the apps. There's a lot of forums where you can speak to other expectant mums, potentially in the same position as you. But for me personally, I found that they were just more upsetting to me, or they were making me more nervous or anxious about things that could happen, things that might happen. So yeah, I decided that they just weren't for me, and I stopped looking at them, and I tried to focus more on the like scientific sources of information, so things that were like more factual. I found that that was more comforting, and yeah, for me personally, that's just what helped me, and with a bit of the anxiety of like the first few weeks. And then just speaking of the anxiety in the first few weeks, something that really helped me was when we went and booked a private scan at a local private clinic to go and have a reassurance scan. So we did this at 8 weeks, and it was probably one of the most emotional things that I think I've done, and I really didn't expect it to be. I don't know why I didn't expect it to be. I don't know, I just didn't expect it to be as emotional as it was. And I think it's because that was the first time that I truly felt so connected to our baby. And when people say the first time you hear that heartbeat, it is just like the most magical, surreal moment. Like, it just really is. And going to the appointment, we were really nervous. I was terrified that we would get there and there would be this like whole dramatic scene that I kept playing in my head, that they wouldn't be able to find a heartbeat or something like that. And yeah, I was just really anxious and really worried about it. And I think that's partly why when we got into the room, and it's a dark room, you lay on the bed and Grant was next to me, and they had a huge projection screen up on the wall which showed you the like scan image, and then you could hear the noises. And as soon as we could see the baby, which he was like a teeny tiny little fetus at this point, when we could see him on the screen, and then we heard this heartbeat, and it was just like so quick, and it just sounded so delicate, and oh my gosh, like thinking about it now, it just makes me feel emotional, because it was just like pure magic. I've never experienced really anything quite like that, and it was just like an affirmation that there is a baby there and it's okay. And yeah, like the dream is real. I felt like at that point I could like really start to enjoy and embrace the pregnancy and everything that came with it. And after we had had that scan, we went out into the reception area where they help you choose which pictures or videos you would like printing off and emailing to you, that kind of thing. And the woman, bless her, was trying to talk us through how to select the photos, and I was just an emotional wreck. Like, I couldn't speak because I had that, you know, that kind of thing in your throat when you know that you're about to burst into tears. So we got the photos and the videos, and then when we got back into the car, I was just like sobbing, like absolutely just with so much happiness, relief, excitement. Like there were so many emotions. I was so emotional, and that is when I filmed a little clip on my phone. And yeah, it was just a really nice, really happy moment that we were able to share together. And oh yeah, just I think like probably you can tell like just the way that I'm like beaming, like smiling about it. It's just such a happy memory and something that I will always cherish. No better now. Hey. Just had to take a little break because somebody needed some breakfast. Is that better now? Yeah. So, trying to remember where I got up to now. I think I was going to talk about a couple of lifestyle changes as well that I experienced in my first trimester. So one of them was trying to figure out what I could and couldn't eat, and that was a bit of a minefield because there was so much information online that was contradicting, and some people saying, oh, the evidence is really old, and it was just like a whole kind of worms. So I personally just tried to be reasonable and just stay on the side of caution, and if I wasn't sure about something I'd just choose something else. But that was a bit of a minefield at first, and it was kind of changing the way I thought and remembered to pick things that were suitable for me. So that was a little bit of like a lifestyle adjustment in the first trimester for me, because I'm such a foodie as well. Like I love my food, I love my cheese, I love all of the kind of meats and cold meats and a lot of things that you have to just make little adjustments for to be on the safe side. And I also discovered that sleeping on your back is no longer a thing in pregnancy, and you are encouraged to sleep on your side. So I naturally sleep on my back, so for me that was a big adjustment, and sleep is like really important to me, and if I don't get a good quality sleep I can really tell. So I've kind of had to like train myself to get a good night's sleep on my side instead of on my back, which it sounds like a little thing, but it's actually quite a big thing. It is to me anyway. But I'm pleased to say that now that I'm in my third trimester, I'm completely used to it, and it's fine. But yeah, that was just one of the lifestyle changes, I suppose, in the first trimester that I came across. Then as the trimester was kind of progressing, I started to notice more symptoms, like my sense of smell was so strong, and that's something that I've never experienced. I've never had like an intense sense of smell before and certain scents, and all of a sudden I could like really smell everything like really intensely. It was as if the like smellometer on my nose had been turned up to like a 10 when it was normally like a 5 or a 6, and it was just one of those weird things where bad smells would smell really bad and good smells would smell really good. Like if I was at the office and somebody had I don't know, like a chippy lunch or something, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that smells like the best thing that I've ever smelled in my life. Like that just smells amazing. So yeah, hit and miss on that one. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it was bad. But I also came across a lot of bloating early on, and I am typically quite a bloaty person anyway. It's something that I kind of have come to terms with, and I feel comfortable in my bloaty body now. But for a long time it was something that I struggled with and felt really quite insecure about it, I guess, because as I've got older it's just become something that my body does more, and I've had to get used to it more and learn to accept and to love it. But I began to notice like more bloating than usual, and I was thinking this isn't really my normal level of bloating, and it would normally only really happen mainly around the time of my period, but this was like a constant feeling of bloat, and it just never really went away, which for me was not normal. So that was definitely a symptom that I experienced in the first trimester. And then poor Gran, bless him, because I definitely felt like I became really irritable. Like I'm normally a very chilled out, laid back person. If something bothers me, I kind of take a breath, and yeah, I can just kind of take a breath, take a minute and then move on. Things don't really bother me much, and I began to feel like just very irritable all of the time. And I would find myself saying to Grant like, look, I'm so sorry I was so crabby this morning, or I don't know why I was like that, or whatever. Luckily he's super understanding and completely got it, and is also quite a laid back person. But yeah, I did catch myself a few times being like really irritable and kind of having to take stock and be like, okay, look, just take a minute, it's not important, it's not a big deal, just breathe, move on. Oh, and around the same sort of time that all of this was happening, the pregnancy tiredness, oof, I have not ever experienced anything like it. It was just tiredness on a whole new level. Like I have tried over the last few years especially to listen to my body more and just be more in touch with what my body's trying to tell me, what I need to do for my self-care, my self-love. And this sort of tiredness was just next level, and it felt like my body was telling me that I needed to sleep all of the time. Like literally I would wake up, still feel tired. I'd get home from work and be exhausted, and I'd need to have like a few hours nap, and then I'd kind of wake up, Grant would do tea, I'd eat tea, I'd eat what I could manage, and then I'd go back to sleep and sleep through the whole night. Like it got to a point where I was becoming irritated with myself because there was so much that I wanted to do and I had on my to-do list, and I just couldn't get through anything because I was so tired. And after a few weeks I kind of came to terms with it and just thought, look, this is what my body must need right now, and just go with the flow, kind of stop worrying about getting my to-do list done. I had to like really prioritize a couple of things, and then other things I had to be like, look, you know what, if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done, and it's more important that I rest and listen to what my body is trying to tell me. Like at the time I was doing 2 days at the office working during the week and 3 days at home, and I remember those 2 days getting up, getting dressed, getting to the office was like such a mammoth task because I was so tired, and I would literally get in from work, change into my pajamas, roll into bed and just sleep until tea time for a few hours, and then in the mornings on the weekends I could easily sleep in till 1-2 o'clock and then wake up for a few hours and then actually go back to bed and sleep until the next day. Like, it was insane the amount of time that I must have spent sleeping, but I felt like that was what I needed, and I'm really glad that I actually listened to my body now, and I did try and find the time to do that, and I was able to do that. I'm very grateful that I was able to do that and kind of let certain things go, not worry about getting certain tasks done. Like if the house didn't look perfectly clean or the washing was building up a bit, I just kind of let it go in the end, and just prioritised trying to look after myself. And thankfully Grant was great and was able to pick up things like the food shopping or the washing or cooking tea, things that I would normally do, because I just needed to sleep. Oh, and the only thing that would really interrupt my sleep was needing to go to the toilet, and I'd say as my pregnancy has gone on, the frequency has increased. During the first trimester, probably like, I don't know, week 10, maybe a bit later, 10, 11, 12 weeks, I started to really notice that the thing that was like waking me up the most was needing to go to toilet. And yeah, that hasn't really stopped. Again, scientifically, it's just one of those things. But I would try to make sure I was drinking enough water and keeping hydrated, which is something I struggle to kind of do ordinarily, like just to keep on top of my water and keep on top of my hydration. But I found that in the first trimester I was going to the toilet a lot, and yeah, it was just really important to try and keep up and on top of my fluids. I always felt a little bit better and a little bit fresher, a bit more awake if I'd got my water intake for the day. So yeah, I was just trying to keep up on my water, which probably resulted in me needing the toilet even more. But yeah, I did kind of feel better for it at the same time. I'm going to speak about one of the symptoms that I think most people expect to experience during the first trimester, which is morning sickness. My experience of morning sickness, nausea, vomiting in the first trimester, thankfully, wasn't too bad. And I feel so thankful that I'm able to say that, because I am a person that, I mean, nobody likes to be sick, but it was something that I was like aware of and I was a bit nervous about happening. And thankfully for me, it didn't turn into a huge issue. And obviously that is completely different person to person, but if it is something that you are really concerned about, really anxious about, I suppose that at least I can say that from my personal experience, I wasn't physically sick. The only time I was physically sick was when I picked up a stomach bug, but apart from that, morning sickness didn't actually make me physically sick. So if it is something that you are really anxious about, you're really nervous about how your body might react to the hormones, then I hope it might give you some reassurance that in my case personally, it's not actually something that happened to me. But that's not to say that I didn't have some effects. So basically, as the hormones increase in your body and your body is trying to deal with them and react to it, I did start to feel the morning sickness more and more as my first trimester progressed. And like I say, thankfully for me, it wasn't too bad, but it would predominantly start in the morning and then kind of ease off in the early afternoon and then kind of get worse again in the evening. and sometimes it was just like a constant feeling of nauseousness, which wasn't nice, but thankfully it wasn't debilitating, it wasn't taking over my days, and it was something that I felt like I could control and I was comfortable with, and I found ways to cope with it. But obviously if it is something that becomes a real issue, just don't try and deal with it on your own. There are things out there that can help you. Just speak to your midwife, or you really should go to your doctor and just not suffer in silence, because there are things out there that can help you, and as you go along you'll find things that you can do yourself that might help you as well. So for me, as it went along and I discovered kind of more of a pattern, I started sleeping with plain crackers, a glass of water and a bottle of Lucozade on my bedside table. And I found that if I had like half a cracker, one cracker in the morning with a bit of water, a sip of Lucozade, that made me feel a lot better, just because I suppose I had something in my tummy, and it was a bit of a balancing act between feeling hungry, which made me feel sick if I didn't eat something, and eating something which made me feel sick. I hope that makes sense. So it was a bit of a balancing act, but I found that little and often plain snacks, Lucozade, were my absolute saviours for me personally. So I'd find that they really helped me. And also if I was having particularly bad feelings of sickness, I found that laying on my bed, which is where I'm most comfortable, I'd just turn all the lights off and I would have my fan next to me. And I found that keeping cool and being in a dark space, for me personally, that like helped so much. And I'm not really sure why, but I think that's just the most comfortable situation for me, to be cool and in darkness, like kind of cave-like almost. But that really helped with my sickness and made me feel a lot better. But there was a trip that we went on, and I did actually vlog it, but it was our trip to Robin Hood's Bay, which was actually a wedding present from my mum and dad, and I was so excited for it. And don't get me wrong, we still had such a good time, like really happy memories, we had a really great weekend, but my morning sickness was kind of at its worst around then. And the food at the hotel was so good, like it was delicious food. Obviously we're at the seaside, so I wanted to have all of my favourite things, and I was kind of struggling to eat a lot, and half of it was I didn't want to eat too much because that would make me feel sick, and half of it was the anxiety of eating in the hotel restaurant and then feeling sick and needing to run to the toilet or something like that. So I also found that just knowing where the nearest toilets are, or having your like escape route planned out, was helpful for me. Not eating too much in one go, so having like smaller portions, again that was something that helped me. And eating, just kind of like listening to your body and trying to understand what foods might trigger you more than others. So I had really strong cravings for things like fruit smoothies that were like really cold, almost sour fruits, like sour berries, that kind of thing. Ice lollies, what else was there? I just had a lot of cravings for fruit really, to be honest. And then sour sweets. So kind of trying to listen to my body and eat those things in particular helped me. Like I really went off pie, which for me is so bizarre because I am such, like, I'm a Yorkshire girl, I love pie. I love a pie and pea supper, and the thought of pie at the time just ugh. And then the thought of tea and coffee as well. I went off tea and coffee for the whole first trimester. The thought of a milky drink, yeah, it just made me feel sick, like instantly feel sick. And thankfully, as I went into the second trimester, that actually subsided, and now I can enjoy hot drinks again. But yeah, it was just a case of trying to listen to what my body was telling me, what foods might sit well with me and foods that might make me feel unsettled. And there was another time when I had gone to work in the office for the day, and on my way in I picked up a McMuffin, sausage and egg McMuffin from McDonald's, hash brown, coffee, which is one of my like favourite naughty breakfasts. And I sat in the car and I had my little, in the car park at the office, and I had my little bag of McDonald's, and I was about to go in, and then I had just this intense wave of nauseousness, and I was like, I really don't know if I can eat this, but I really want it. And it was just, like I say, like that balance, and thankfully I think I did eat it. But that's another thing actually, that I did speak to my manager at work, and she was really great, and she was able to provide a bit of support in that area and understanding, and that's something I'm really grateful for, because you should feel comfortable to take time off if that's what you feel like you need. If you have intense morning sickness or discomfort or anything like that, if you are suffering, then you should feel comfortable to take that time off that you need. And thankfully I didn't get to that point personally, but there were a couple of instances, like the McMuffin morning, when I was a bit like really on the edge of being like, I might need to just run to the toilet, or I might need to just go home. And I suppose a summary of kind of all of those things rolled into one is that I felt that, well, I found that if I pushed myself to do things, like if I was being really busy, or if I pushed myself to be in certain situations or like social gatherings, certain things I just found really detrimental to my health in the terms of like the sickness and the tiredness. And eventually I realised that I really needed to slow down and just let my body tell me what it needed and to listen to it, which for someone who I quite like to be on the go, I like to be quite busy, that was something that I struggled with doing at first. And if I'm lucky enough to have a second baby, then if I went through the first trimester again, I would just clear my calendar as much as possible. I would just keep my diary as free as possible and just allow myself that time to rest and just give myself permission to let go of the to-do list and just rest. And that's something that I would really highly recommend, is to just try and relax as much as you can, just rest and just listen to what your body's trying to tell you. I hope that that kind of makes sense. And yeah, that is a recap of my first trimester, and like I say, everything is my own personal experience, but I really hope that in some way maybe this video has helped you. But I personally have had so far a really positive experience. My first trimester was probably the hardest one that I've had so far, but there were also some really special magic moments, and thankfully I didn't suffer too much with physical or emotional symptoms of my pregnancy. So I hope that maybe that could reassure you a little bit. Obviously everybody is different, but I know I certainly seeked out comfort and positive first trimester stories when it was the start of my first trimester. So yeah, I just really hope that maybe this has helped you, maybe encouraged you if you are in a similar situation. So thank you for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you've made it to the very end of this video, thank you for watching. And there will be a lot of more pregnancy content coming up on my channel and over on my Instagram, so if you would like to see any of that, please hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And if you have any thoughts or comments, please leave them down below. I love to be able to chat with you and see what your thoughts are. If you want to share any of your own experiences, then please do. It'd be great to hear. And yeah, if you are in your first trimester or approaching it or supporting someone in their first trimester, whatever it is, I really genuinely hope it goes really well for you and wish you all the best. But take care of yourselves, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.